So my name is Melissa Nelson and I work for Neighbourlink here in Calgary. We've been around for 20 years and our sole purpose is to connect the community to those in need. So we take resources from the community and we'll collect them and store them and then redistribute them to some of the most vulnerable Calgarians and community members. It was born about 20 years ago with 5 guys in a basement who were, we got to do something. And they originally started with delivering food hampers to Calgarians who couldn't otherwise get them. So from there, 20 years later, we do a number of other things, including a baby program, which helps infants and children under 2 with things like cribs and car seats and strollers and formula and diapers and all things that for people who are struggling are really difficult to get. And I always laugh because they call it basic necessities, and I never quite understand that that's just the basic necessity. I think it entails so much more than just a bed and a crib and some formula, when you can have some peace of mind and feel like you're safe. I was speaking with one of the moms recently, and she fled domestic violence from Saskatchewan, and she tried a number of other times, and she decided to come to Calgary because she just wasn't successful, and she'd either end up back there. She had 5 kids, so she really had no economic means to move or transition anywhere else. And so she got a hold of a group here in Calgary, and they helped her out, and they took her and her 5 kids in, and she was still feeling, rather hopeless, like, what am I going to do? What am I really going to do? And they worked with her, and there was some other counseling groups that worked with her. And then it came time where she needed to find her own place. And she was extremely stressed out about how she was going to do that. She had 5 kids and no friends and no family here. And they said, don't worry, we know this place that could help you. And so she called Neighbourlink. And when I spoke with her, actually it was just last Friday, she's quite a lovely lady, and she was talking about how her and her kids were unpacking and the uncertainty that they had. They didn't see that it would be possible to have another home. They didn't really know what to expect. They didn't want to leave the workers. They didn't think it would feel okay, and they were quite stressed out. And it had just been a day or 2 since her stuff had arrived for her, and she had just moved in with her kids, and they were unpacking, and her son was sitting on his bed, and she looked up and he was smiling. And she said, well, what's going on? And he said, well, it's going to be okay, right, Mom? And he was looking around in his room and his stuff. And so we were talking about, what do basic necessities do for you? And she said, it makes my kids feel safe. It gives us hope. It tells us, like, I had no idea that people would help me out like this. And it tells us that, essentially, she said it gave her the courage to continue moving forward, right? So when you look at simple things that can happen and all that it means, she talked about her older daughter who often had more responsibilities in the family unit than she ever needed. And a day and a half into their new place, the simple provision of some basic necessities to get them started meant that she'd already made friends with a neighbor girl and was outside playing, versus worrying about, Mom and what was going to happen next, and little brother and her other couple sisters, right? So I think about those things. I think there's another family that I met with on Saturday, and a lovely family, and Mom is just this amazing woman, and they come from South Africa, and they're originally in Medicine Hat. They came to Calgary, and they have these 4 very cute little girls, and I had my little girls there, so there was these 4 other very cute little girls, and watching them join up and become friends, and all the while they're playing back here, and Mom was speaking with some of our volunteers to try and help them understand exactly what it does, and it was through our Adopt a Family program. And she spoke about how hard they work. Her husband has to go out of town for long periods of time as a laborer in order to make ends meet. And she works 2 and 3 jobs here because they can't afford childcare for 4 kids. So she tries to swing that around the kids in order to make ends meet. And they didn't have new dresses, they didn't have new clothes, and I'm looking at our little girls and their little girls and going, I can't help it, you know. You look at the contrast in that, and they're all very happy though. And it was just the courage. And she said, being new to Canada and those things, and how it made her feel at home, and like she was one of us, and that it was going to be okay. And I think what I forgot to mention is that both her and her husband are highly educated where they come from, but it's not recognized here. And yet they work very hard, just like you or I, and just struggling to make ends meet. And so last year at Christmas, and their sponsor was there, so she came with them. And she was talking about how, you know, through meeting her, it was just so neat to watch. So here's this little girl, and she crawls up on her lap, right? So this is just, you know, they were just going to do adopt a family, drop off some presents for them at Christmas time, and it's clear that a relationship much stronger than that has been formed, and the kids were crawling all over, and they were laughing, and she was saying, you know, how much that relationship had enriched her life and her family's life. So it's really a two-way street, right? We get to help others and meet some amazing and incredible people along the way. And then there's that feeling of gratitude of what it feels to look around and know how much you have and what you can share, right? So it really is a two-way deal that happens. We connect the community with those who need it most.